The alien station floated above a dead world, its metal body turning slowly against the stars. It was not a place of trade or welcome. It was a place of judgment. Prisoners from across the galaxy were brought here to be measured, scanned, and tested. The scanner told the truth. It showed if a body was weak, if a mind was broken, if a soul could still be controlled. No one had ever walked past its light without being revealed. On this day, a human was brought into the chamber. Chains rattled against the floor as guards dragged him forward. His body was covered with scars, deep and old, crossing his chest, arms, and face. His eyes were calm, steady, watching everything but giving nothing away. The guards shoved him hard, but he did not stumble. He stood tall even in chains. The chamber was filled with aliens of many races. Some were officers with medals of command. Others were scientists, their eyes glowing with hunger for data. They whispered to one another as the human stepped into the center. Look at his skin, so damaged. No one should survive such wounds. He should not be standing. The scanner machine loomed ahead, a tall frame of silver and black, pulsing with cold blue light. Many prisoners had fallen to their knees in fear when they saw it. The human only raised his head higher. The commander gave the order. Begin the scan. The machine came alive with sound. Lights ran along its frame as it drew in power. The beam of light swept over the human's body from head to toe. It passed over the scars one by one, reading the history written into his flesh. The room grew quiet. Every eye was on the screen. Then the first alarm sounded. A sharp, high scream of metal. The screen flashed red, then black, then lit again with words none of them had ever seen before. Warning, anomaly detected. Subject, human. Condition, termination impossible. The aliens froze. For a moment no one breathed. Then voices broke out, harsh and fearful. Impossible. The machine is wrong. Run it again. The commander slammed his fist against the rail. Silence. Run the scan again. The machine powered up once more. Its light moved slowly across the human's body, tracing every scar, every mark. His chest rose and fell, calm, almost bored. His eyes did not leave the commander. The alarms screamed louder this time. The screen filled with warnings. Repeat. Termination impossible. Warning. Subject cannot be killed. Recommend. Do not engage. The chamber erupted into chaos. Some of the guards stepped back, fear in their eyes. The scientists argued, waving their data tablets. No being is beyond death. The scanner does not lie. Look at the readings. This cannot be real. It is a trick. The commander stared at the human, his jaw tight. What are you? He asked. The human said nothing. He only raised his scarred arms as the chains pulled at his wrists. His silence was heavier than any answer. One of the younger officers, trembling, whispered, Look at the scars. Those are not wounds of one life. Those are the marks of centuries. The words spread through the room like fire. Could he be ancient? Could he have survived battles long before their empires even rose? The human finally spoke. His voice was low, steady, and it carried across the chamber like a cold wind. You put your faith in your machine. It sees truth you do not want to face. I am still here because nothing in your universe can end me. Your weapons have tried. Your kind has tried, but I am still here. His eyes met those of the commander, unblinking. These scars are not shame. They are proof. Every cut, every burn, every strike meant to end me has only become a mark that warns the next enemy. The chamber fell into silence. Even the scientists stopped speaking. The only sound was the low hum of the scanner as it flickered with its unreadable warnings. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the machine gave a final sound, deep and final, like the closing of a grave. The screen turned black. Across it appeared one final message, brighter than the rest. Subject status, immortal. The words hung in the air. The aliens stared, unable to believe, yet unable to deny. Fear took root in their hearts. The commander turned to his officers. Lock him down, he ordered. His voice was sharp, but there was unease in his eyes. We will test this claim. Guards moved forward, but their steps were slower than before. The human did not resist. He stood tall, chains heavy but spirit unbroken. As they dragged him toward the holding cells, one thought burned in every alien mind. If this human truly could not be killed, then what war was waiting for them? The scars told a story no machine could fully explain, and now that story was about to spread through the galaxy. The hook was set. The fear was real. And none of them yet knew what the human would do next. Fear in the chamber. The chamber remained heavy with silence after the scanner's last message. The words still glowed in every officer's mind, subject immortal, as if the letters were carved into the air itself. The human had been led away, chains rattling, yet his presence lingered like a shadow over every corner of the hall. The commander, a tall figure with silver skin and narrow eyes, slammed the rail again, but this time the sound was weaker. He was not striking with authority, but with fear. His voice cracked as he tried to regain control. "Reset the machine," he barked. "Test another prisoner." The scientists rushed to obey. A smaller creature, a slave from one of the outer worlds, was dragged forward and pushed into the beam. The scanner hummed, ran its light, and returned the usual message. Weak, low threat. Termination possible. Everything was normal, the chamber filled with low murmurs. The machine was not broken. It had worked as it always had, which meant the reading on the human was not an error. One of the officers spoke, his voice shaking. "Commander, if the machine is correct, then we cannot hold him. He is beyond control. Beyond death." Another older officer struck back with anger. "No one is beyond control. He bleeds, he breathes, he eats. That means he can be broken. Do not be fooled by tricks of scars and words." But his voice trembled at the edges, and everyone could hear it. The scientists argued among themselves, their screens glowing with strange data. The energy inside his cells does not match any pattern we know. It is as if each wound has locked part of him into a cycle, as if every scar remembers what? Another asked. Remembers survival. The word sent a chill through the chamber. Survival itself, coded into flesh, into blood, into bone. The human's body had become a record of everything he had endured, and still he lived. Far below, in the cells, guards stared at him from behind thick barriers. They whispered to each other when they thought no one was listening. "Did you see his eyes?" one said. "It was like he was not afraid of anything." "I think he wanted us to be afraid," the other replied. And it worked. The human sat in silence, the chains heavy on his arms, but his posture was steady. He was not slumped like a prisoner. He sat as if waiting. Back in the chamber, the commander held a private council with the highest officers. His voice was low, meant for no one outside to hear. "We have two choices. We dissect him, or we erase him before others learn what he is." One of the officers shook his head quickly. "Dissect? If the scanner is true, our blades and fire will not end him. We will only anger him, and if he cannot die, then we will never be free of him." Another leaned closer, whispering, "What if the humans know about this already? What if they sent him here on purpose? A warning?" The commander's jaw tightened. "Then we must make certain no one leaves this station alive to spread such a story." But even as he spoke, his eyes betrayed doubt. He remembered the way the human had stood, scars shining under the scanner light. He remembered the words that came from his mouth, calm, steady, full of weight. The kind of words that are not spoken by liars, but by survivors. Meanwhile, word had already begun to spread through the lower decks. Soldiers, workers, and slaves all whispered about the prisoner. The tale grew with every telling. By the time it reached the outer halls, the human was no longer a man in chains. He was a shadow of war, a soldier who had walked through fire, a being who had fought death itself and won. The more the officers tried to silence the talk, the faster it spread. Fear has a way of moving faster than commands. In the cells, one alien guard dared to ask him directly, "What are you, human?" The prisoner lifted his head slowly, his eyes sharp and alive. He answered with a single sentence, "I am what your scanner says I am." The guard stepped back, heart racing, unable to reply. In the chamber above, the commander gave his final order for the night. "Triple the guard. Keep weapons ready. Tomorrow we will test him in ways the scanner cannot." But none of them slept well. The image of the scarred man would not leave their minds. His silence was worse than any threat. His calm was more dangerous than any blade. And somewhere deep inside, they all knew the truth. The scanner had not lied. The human could not be killed, and if he chose to rise against them, not even the whole station might survive. The human speaks. The cell was cold, the walls built from black metal that swallowed light. The human sat in chains, yet his posture was straight, his head unbowed. Outside the barrier, guards kept their distance, rifles held tight. They whispered among themselves, eyes darting toward him, but none dared step closer. Hours passed. The station seemed quieter than usual, though thousands lived inside it. Silence had spread like a fog. The story of the human had reached every corridor, every deck, every mess hall. Some called him a monster. Others called him a weapon. But the word most often whispered was one that none dared say aloud near the officers: immortal. At last the barrier hissed open, and a group of high officers entered. Their armor gleamed, their eyes sharp, but their movements betrayed unease. At their center was the commander. He stepped forward, glaring down at the prisoner. "You will speak now," the commander said. "You will tell us what you are. What trick hides beneath those scars?" The human lifted his head. His eyes were dark, steady, and cold. He did not rush his words. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost quiet, yet it carried across the chamber with weight that silenced every whisper. "There is no trick," he said. "You want to know what I am? I am human. Nothing more." Laughter broke from one of the officers, sharp and nervous. "Nothing more? You stand here with the mark of immortality, and you expect us to believe you are only human?" The prisoner's gaze shifted to him. "Only human," he repeated. "But perhaps you do not understand what that means." The officers grew still. Even the guard rifles lowered slightly, as if drawn by his voice. "These scars you see," he continued, raising his arms as far as the chains allowed, "are not decorations. They are not symbols carved by ritual. They are truth. Each one tells the story of something that tried to end me, fire that should have burned me to ash, blades that should have torn me apart, poison that should have stopped my heart. Yet I remained, and every scar carries the memory of that survival." He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping lower, colder. "Your machine did not lie. It read what my body already knows. I cannot be killed, because I have already faced everything that should have killed me." The chamber was silent. None of the officers moved. The prisoner's words pressed down on them like a heavy weight. The commander tried to recover his authority. "Every being has a limit," he said. "Even you. You only try to frighten us with stories." The human's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. It was not a smile of joy, but of someone who had seen too much. "Frighten you? No, I only remind you. You are not the first to believe you could test me. You are not the first to think chains would hold me. You are not the first to dream of ending me." His eyes grew darker. "But you may be the last." The officers shifted uneasily. The commander clenched his fists. His own heart beat faster, though he tried to hide it. One of the scientists stepped forward, his voice shaking. "What are you saying? That death itself avoids you? That you choose to survive?" The prisoner's gaze turned toward him. "I do not choose. Survival chose me. From the moment I was born, the universe has tried to erase me, yet here I stand." He touched the scar across his chest with chained hands. "And as long as I stand, no empire, no weapon, no machine will forget me." The word struck deeper than any weapon. The officers looked at each other, but none spoke. The air was thick with fear and something else. Respect, though none would admit it. The commander forced himself to step closer, though his knees felt unsteady. "If what you say is true, then you are not a man. You are a threat to every world." The human's eyes locked with his, unflinching. "I am a man, and that is why you fear me. Because if one man can stand against all your power, then what will happen when more rise? What will you do when humanity itself comes?" The chamber trembled with the silence that followed. No officer dared laugh this time. The meaning was clear, heavy, impossible to ignore. The human leaned back against the wall, his chains clinking softly. His voice fell to a whisper, yet every ear caught the words. "You do not fear me because I cannot die. You fear me because I am only one." The silence held like a blade at the throat. None could answer. The officers, the commander, even the guards, they all knew the truth. If one human carried such power, then their war was not against one prisoner. It was against an entire species. And for the first time, the thought cut through them like ice. Perhaps their galaxy was not as safe as they had believed. The human closed his eyes, his scars glowing faintly under the dim light. The officers left the chamber one by one, their faces pale, their hearts unsteady. None dared give another order. None dared look back. The prisoner remained still, waiting. Not for freedom, not for mercy, but for the moment when their fear would break them. The breaking point. The council chamber was restless. Officers paced, their boots echoing against metal floors. Guards shifted in unease, their hands tight around rifles they no longer trusted. The words of the human still weighed on them. "You do not fear me because I cannot die. You fear me because I am only one." The commander's patience was gone. Fear was poison, and he could see it spreading through his ranks. If he did nothing, The human's silence would become victory. His voice cut through the air like a blade. Enough of words. We will test him. The officers turned, startled. One of them spoke quickly, almost begging. Commander, the scanner warned, do not engage. You risk too much. The commander's eyes burned with anger. If we cower before one man, then our empire is already dead. Bring him. Moments later, the human was dragged back into the chamber. His chains clanged against the floor, heavy but meaningless. His steps were calm, steady, as if he were walking into something he already knew. The guards forced him to his knees, but he did not resist. His scars caught the light once more, shining like faint brands of fire across his body. His eyes remained fixed on the commander. The commander raised his hand, pointing at one of the guards. Strike him. Let us see how this immortal bleeds. The guard hesitated. His knuckles whitened around the weapon. The human's calm gaze met his, and for a moment the guard's breath faltered. Then, with a desperate cry, he brought the weapon down. The blow landed hard across the human's back. The sound rang like metal striking stone. The chamber filled with silence. The human did not fall. Slowly he lifted his head, his eyes cold, unbroken. The strike had left a mark, but it was already fading. The skin closed itself as if remembering how to heal, leaving only the faint trace of another scar joining the many before it. The guard staggered back, horror flooding his face. The human's voice rose, calm and sharp. You see now, your weapons do not end me. They only add to my story. The scanner, still active in the corner, flared with sudden light. Its alarm screamed louder than ever, filling the chamber with shrill warnings. The screen pulsed with red letters. Warning. Subject resilient beyond limits. Immortal. Do not engage. Termination. Impossible. The words repeated again and again, until they blurred together into one relentless message. The officers stepped back, their faces pale. Another soldier, desperate to prove the human mortal, fired a shot. The plasma bolt struck the prisoner's chest. For a heartbeat, the room filled with smoke and heat. When the haze cleared, the human still knelt upright. The wound closed before their eyes, leaving behind another scar etched deep into his flesh. He looked down at it, touched it lightly, and then raised his gaze back to them. Now it remembers too, he said softly. Fear broke the chamber. Some officers shouted for retreat. Guards lowered weapons, their courage drained. The scientist nearest the scanner whispered in disbelief. It is not healing. It is recording. Every wound makes him stronger. The commander's jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed the truth. Fear was growing in him too. He shouted above the chaos. Hold your ground. He is only one man. The human's chains rattled as he rose to his feet. Taller now, his scars glowing faintly in the dim light. His voice was calm, yet it cut through the chamber sharper than any blade. Only one man is enough. The guards stumbled backward. Some dropped their rifles, the sound clattering against the floor. None dared strike again. The human stood unshaken, his body proof of every death he had denied. The scanner gave one last scream, its lights bursting in sparks. The machine flickered, overloaded, and then shut down with a final message burned across its screen. This human is beyond termination. Silence followed, deep and suffocating. No one moved. No one spoke. The commander looked around the chamber and saw only fear. Fear in the eyes of his guards, fear in his officers, fear in himself. His power was crumbling, not by force of armies, but by the presence of one chained man who refused to die. The human lowered his gaze, his voice soft, almost a whisper. You tried your test. Now you understand. The words sank like stones into the hearts of everyone present. They had seen with their own eyes. They could no longer doubt. He was not a prisoner. He was a warning, and the warning was clear. Nothing they did could end him. The final realization, the chamber smelled of smoke and fear. The scanner lay broken, its frame still sparking from overload. The guards had pulled back to the far walls, unwilling to step closer to the scarred man who now stood in chains but no longer looked like a prisoner. He stood as if the chamber itself belonged to him. The commander's voice cracked when he tried to restore control. Restrain him. Lock him in the deepest cell. No one moved. The guards stared at the floor, their rifles heavy in their hands but their courage gone. Every soldier knew the truth. If weapons could not stop him, then chains were worthless. An officer finally spoke, his voice low but clear. Commander, if he truly cannot die, then we cannot hold him. Our walls mean nothing. Our weapons mean nothing. He will outlast us all. Another officer shouted in panic. We must kill him now before the others come. Humans cannot all be like this. He is a trick, a cursed one. If we cut him apart, perhaps... The words broke into silence as the human turned his head toward the speaker. His gaze alone was enough. Cold, steady, endless. The officer's voice died in his throat. The commander's hands trembled. He had led fleets into war, crushed rebellions, burned worlds to ash. But never had he felt this helpless. Never had one man broken an empire's spirit without lifting a weapon. The human finally spoke, his voice quiet but sharper than the alarms that had filled the chamber hours earlier. You wonder if killing me will save you. You still do not understand. His words carried through the chamber like an echo from stone walls. I am not your greatest fear. I am not your greatest enemy. I am only proof. Proof that your weapons are weak. Proof that your chains are lies. Proof that humanity cannot be measured by your machines. He stepped forward, the chains dragging but not slowing him. The guards shrank back, though he did not attack. His scars caught the light again, each one glowing faintly as if alive. You call me immortal. You fear that word? But listen closely, I am only one. Do you think I am the only human to endure? The only one to rise again after death should have claimed me? No. I am only the first you have seen. The chamber went still. Even the commander's breathing seemed to stop. The human's voice grew darker, heavier, as if it carried the weight of centuries. When the rest of my kind comes, you will see what immortality means. You will see why your scanner warned you not to engage. The commander's lips parted, but no words came. The truth was already there, undeniable. Far above the chamber, alarms began to sound. Not the shrill scream of scanners, but the deep rolling thunder of the station's defense systems. Lights turned red across the ceiling. A voice echoed from the control decks. Unidentified fleet approaching. Multiple human warships detected, the officers froze. Some turned pale. Others clutched at consoles with trembling hands. The guards stared at one another in panic. The human tilted his head, eyes narrowing slightly as if he had been waiting for this moment. A faint smile touched his lips. I told you, he whispered. You never captured me. I let you? The words cut through every heart in the chamber. The officers understood at last. He had walked into their station not as a prisoner, but as a message. His scars were not secrets. They were warnings. Warnings that had now been delivered. The human straightened, chains dragging across the floor like broken symbols of power. The walls trembled with the sound of engines outside as human ships drew closer, their shadows falling across the station's metal skin. The commander's eyes filled with despair. He had tried to break the man, but it was his empire that had broken instead. The prisoner's voice rose one last time, cold and final. You thought the machine revealed my truth, but the truth is much greater. I am not impossible to kill. Humanity itself is impossible to kill. The chamber fell into silence as the first shockwaves of the human fleet shook the station. The officers stood frozen, staring at the scarred man who had changed their world with nothing but his survival. And in that silence, one thought settled deep into their minds. If one human could bring them to their knees, what would happen when the rest arrived?